My girlfriend of 3 years got drunk at a party and did a lot of bad things. I've been dating Jessica for 3 years now, and for the most part, it's been great. She's smart, funny, impulsive in a way that's usually endearing, and has this spark that draws people to her. But there's one thing about Jess: when she drinks, things can get a little unpredictable. And last weekend, things got completely out of hand. It was our friend Matt's birthday party. He's one of those people who throws big, over-the-top events where everyone drinks way too much, and somehow someone always ends up jumping into a pool fully clothed. Jess and I both knew it would be wild, but we figured we'd have a good time, like we usually do. We'd been a little stressed lately, so the idea of cutting loose sounded perfect. At first, everything was fine. We showed up together, did the round saying hi to everyone, grabbed a couple of drinks, and just settled into the party vibe. Jess was her usual charming self, making people laugh, dancing a little in that carefree way she does. I remember looking at her and thinking how lucky I was to have someone like her. But then, the shots started. I'm not a huge drinker, so I stayed pretty chill. Jess, though, went all in. Tequila shots, vodka shots, some weird jungle juice someone brought, she didn't hold back. I should have known where this was headed, but honestly, I didn't think too much of it at first. She's gotten tipsy before, and it's usually fine. She gets a little louder, maybe a little clingier with me, but nothing crazy. This time was different. The first sign that things were going sideways was when I saw her talking to our mutual friend Ryan. They were standing pretty close, and Jess was laughing at something he said, leaning on him a little. At first, I brushed it off. She's a naturally touchy person, and Ryan's a good guy. I figured it was harmless. But then she kissed him. I froze. It wasn't a quick, friendly peck on the cheek, it was on the lips, and it lasted long enough for me to realize exactly what was happening. Ryan pulled back, looking as shocked as I felt. I stormed over, ready to. I don't even know. Say something, do something. But before I could even open my mouth, Jess turned to me and grinned like nothing had happened. Hey, babe. You having fun? She slurred, completely oblivious to the fact that I'd just seen her kiss someone else. I didn't know what to do. I was too stunned to even respond, and before I could figure it out, she'd stumbled off to get another drink. Ryan tried to apologize, swearing up and down that it wasn't his fault, and I believed him. It was obvious Jess was the one making bad decisions, not him. But that didn't make it any easier to process. The night spiraled from there. Jess kept drinking, and her behavior got more and more out of control. She tried to kiss a couple of our other friends, who awkwardly dodged her advances. Then she started flirting with complete strangers, telling one of them that we were in an open relationship. We're not. That was news to me and, apparently, everyone else who overheard. I kept trying to pull her aside, to get her to calm down or at least talk to me about what was going on, but she was too far gone. Every time I tried, she'd laugh it off or brush me away. Stop being so serious, Nate. It's a party, she'd say, her words slurring together. I felt like I didn't even know the person in front of me. At one point, she disappeared entirely, and I spent almost half an hour searching for her. I finally found her sitting on the lawn with a group of strangers, telling some exaggerated story about our relationship. I couldn't even bring myself to interrupt her. I just stood there for a moment, listening to her talk about us like we were some open-book soap opera. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life instead of my own. By the end of the night, I managed to get her into an Uber and back to her place. She passed out almost immediately, leaving me to sit there in the dark, replaying everything that had happened. I felt hurt, angry, confused, all of it swirling around in my head with no way to make sense of it. I'd never seen her like this before, and I didn't know what it meant for us. The next morning, Jess woke up groggy and completely clueless. She didn't remember a thing. When I started telling her what happened, her face went pale. She kept shaking her head, whispering, "No, no, no. I didn't. I couldn't have," but she had. Our friends had already filled her in on the parts one didn't see, and there was no denying it. She broke down crying, apologizing over and over, saying she didn't know what had come over her. I wanted to comfort her, to tell her it was okay, but the truth is, I didn't know if it was. The boundaries we'd built over 3 years had been completely obliterated in one night. And even though I knew she felt guilty, I couldn't shake the image of her kissing Ryan, or the sound of her laughing as she told some stranger we were in an open relationship. It all felt so raw, so wrong. Now, I'm stuck in this emotional limbo. I love Jess, but how do you come back from something like this? How do you rebuild trust when it's been shattered so completely? I keep replaying the night in my head, trying to figure out if there was something I could have done differently. Maybe I should have stopped her from drinking so much, or pulled her out of the party earlier. But deep down, I know it's not on me. This was her doing, and now we're both left to deal with the fallout. And honestly, I'm not sure where we go from here. The week following the party was tense. Jess tried to act normal at first, like if we didn't talk about it, it might somehow go away. But the awkwardness hung in the air every time we were together. I couldn't pretend everything was fine, and neither could she. Finally, one evening, she sat me down on her couch and said, "We need to talk." She told me how ashamed she felt, how she didn't even recognize herself in the stories people told her about that night. She said she'd been under a lot of stress lately and that maybe she'd used the party as an excuse to let loose in the worst way possible. "I never wanted to hurt you, Nate," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how I can make this right, but I'll do anything. Just tell me what to do." Her words hit me hard. Part of me wanted to forgive her right then and there. I could see how much pain she was in, how desperately she wanted to make things better. But another part of me held back. Trust isn't something you can rebuild overnight, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to even try. We agreed to take some space, to give ourselves time to figure out what we wanted and whether we could move forward together. In the meantime, Jess promised to cut back on drinking and to see a therapist to work through whatever had driven her to act the way she did. I appreciated her effort, but I still couldn't shake the nagging doubt in the back of my mind. What if this was just who she was? What if it happened again? Over the next few weeks, I tried to focus on myself. I spent more time with friends, threw myself into work, and even picked up a new hobby, rock climbing, to keep my mind off everything. Jess and I talked occasionally, but it was mostly surface-level stuff. Neither of us brought up the party or what had happened since. It felt like we were both holding our breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Eventually, Jess invited me over to talk. She'd been going to therapy and said it had helped her understand some of the deeper issues she'd been ignoring, her impulsiveness, her need for attention, and her tendency to use alcohol as a coping mechanism. "I'm working on it," she said, "and I hope you can see that. But I know I can't ask you to wait for me forever." Her honesty was refreshing, but it didn't make the decision any easier. I told her I needed more time, that I wasn't ready to make any promises about our future yet. She said she understood, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. It killed me to see her hurting, but I knew I couldn't rush this. As of now, we're still in this strange, uncertain place. I want to believe that people can change, that Jess can learn from this and become a better person. But I also know that trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's not always easy to put the pieces back together. For now, all I can do is take it one day at a time and hope that, whatever happens, we both come out of this stronger. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like.